Hello. Please be advised that this webcast contains explicit language and discussions of sexuality. If you're under 18, you should probably ask your parents first. Otherwise, enjoy the show.
But anyway, so like I told you earlier, I allow my guests to introduce themselves if they would like. If you don't want to, it's
Yes.
fine.
I'm open to that.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have nothing to hide.
All right,
So,
sounds
yeah.
good. I'm Felicia. Welcome back to Things That Keep Me Up at Night, and I'm here with Levi.
Hi.
We have a special connection because I asked Levi for a job about 3 years ago.
And I don't know what I replied.
But you gave me that look of like, no. Ever since then, we've just been connected through the internet.
We've been like internet buds.
We've been internet buds.
Yeah.
I admit that I was thinking about you like late last year because and I felt like so bad because I never followed up with you after top surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And for Thanksgiving, I did Friendsgiving with an employee from another location, and she had me over for this like insane get together. And there were two guys there who were talking about having top surgery. One of them had just had it. Now that I know what that was like from people who I just met at a potluck, okay,
it's definitely not like just a quick fix, quick like nip and tuck. It's like yeah, it's pretty extreme, and it's weird because before I had top surgery, I didn't really know like everything.
Yeah, I was
like, what am I doing?
What you were getting into?
So like I knew, but like you really only know what you see on the internet and stuff, and like I haven't had any like personal acquaintances or friends that have like gone through it. So and most of what's on the internet is all like positive stuff. Like people I've noticed don't really like to talk about like complications.
And you didn't know what you were getting into besides what you had seen in like, am I gonna guess YouTube? Of just like
like YouTube, Tumblr, like bullshit. Yeah, so like just all the fucked up like shit that you see out there. Sorry, can I cuss?
You can cuss. I have it on parental advisory.
Okay, so I'm gonna try not to, but I just like I'm a trash person. So
well, once you see the first episode, you will be like, "Oh, it's fine."
Okay, okay, good. All that I knew was what I saw, so I was like, "This is a walk in the park. It's like a breeze. Like I'm gonna get surgery. It's gonna be perfect. Like everyone that I saw, it was just like all these like great outcomes, like whatever, you know. Everyone on YouTube that like actually has viewers, they're all just these like buff, like white guys, you know, and like it's just this like unrealistic like expectation, you know. Which that's like another topic, but so anyways, yeah, like having surgery, I had complications like the first day that I got home, like I actually had to go back to the ER because I literally like passed out from the pain when I was at home. I like threw up on myself. Oh my God. It was like I like literally thought I was dying, and I was like, is this normal? And I have like a pretty high pain tolerance. So I was just like, oh my God, and like my best friend, two of my best friends were there like watching me, and they were like, we literally thought you were gonna die. Like you like turned like pale white and you like sat up and just like threw up on yourself and like passed out and stuff.
Oh God.
And so they were like, whoa, like we didn't know what was going on. Like we didn't know if you were like bleeding internally or like what was going on. So like they rushed me to the ER, and like if you've been to the ER, you know it's like a shit show half the time.
Yeah, it's always a disaster
zone. It's like
and you're just adding to it.
Most likely, like you just get up and walk out. You're like, I'm fine. Like never mind. So like I got there and we were sitting there for like 2 hours. And I was just like, dude, just take me home. Like, if I'm gonna die, like, I'd rather just die at home than, like, in the ER, like, in this uncomfortable place at, like, 1 in the morning. So I went home and I just stuck it out, and, like, I think it was probably, like, a mix between, like, my anesthesia and also just, like, my body being in shock. And, like, you know, who knows? Everybody's body's different. And, like, I've never had a major surgery before. So I didn't know, like, what was going to happen. Yeah, Jesus. And then, you know, everything that you see, like, on the internet is obviously like sugar coated, and again, like people don't like to talk about like any negative things that go on because like they want
Yeah.
to have this like flawless transition. Now that's not always like the case. That's like mostly not the case. You know,
Yeah.
like you're gonna have your own experience, and
And
so yeah,
your
it was.
doctor didn't prepare you for that either of like, hey,
Nope.
this, and
Nope.
this.
I mean, they gave
Wow.
me like, the little packet of information, but
Mm-hmm.
like it was like, yeah, there's going to be some pain. Like obviously you're like, yeah, there's pain.
Mm-hmm.
But like I didn't like they don't prepare you for like every scenario,
Yeah.
So you kind of just like figure
Yeah.
it out as you go.
Good
But
Lord.
luckily like everything was fine, like nothing terrible happened.
It was the first rough day.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd say like a week. I had a
Mm.
really rough week. Like, I was pretty much stuck on the couch for like at least 4 days and like finally walked around a little bit like after like day three or something.
Mm.
But it was painful. Like, there was definitely like a moment where I was like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like, when is
Yeah.
this gonna end,
Oh my God.
But obviously, like after that whole thing was over, like it was worth it. It was
Yeah, of
amazing.
course.
I'm here and I'm happy. Yeah, it was great.
Good.
Yeah,
But it's a major surgery, and I think that's
yeah.
what
It is not a joke.
people don't
Oh
take into
no.
consideration.
Yeah, it's not like getting Botox or
No.
something like that, or like getting like
Jesus.
you
Yeah.
know, it's like, and I didn't really realize it until it was like all said and done, and
Mhm.
I like woke up and I was like, oh my God, like
Mhm.
I'm dying or something.
Oh my God.
But even I don't know, I'm like 6 or 7 months post. No, whoa, it happened in August, so I'm
Yeah.
like 10 months,
Yeah.
9. I'm bad at math, but um, yeah, even now I still have like pains, and like I went to the doctor like 2 months ago because I was like my nipple hurts and like there was swelling and stuff,
Oh
and it was just
no.
like it turns out it was like scar tissue that had like built up like
Okay.
just around like my nipple
Yeah.
incisions,
Yeah.
like the grafts. And they were like, oh, it'll like soften up over time, but it was scary because I was like, okay, like 6 months later, is my nipple like rejecting itself? Like, is that even
Mhm.
possible? Um, but I didn't know because like people don't talk about this stuff. This
Yeah.
isn't like people post like this kind of base outline of like how it is to transition and like how
Yeah.
surgery goes and like this is like what's normal, but they don't talk about like these complications for like any kinds of procedures and stuff like that. Like people just
Yeah.
don't like to talk about that. Discussing like trans related or like gender related like issues. I think it's still like a very new thing for people, and
Mhm.
also we're still living in a society where it's not really 100% accepted yet, so people don't
Mhm.
like to talk about it even with their doctors. Even when
Mhm.
I go to the doctor, even though I am very open about it, I still find myself being like nervous because like even doctors don't always know how to talk to me or like
Yeah.
like refer to like my body in a way that's like 100% like respectful. Like I came out to my parents and then like a year later I'm getting top surgery and like just being around this whole like conservative like atmosphere,
Mhm.
and then now being like like having the burden or feeling like a burden, like having complications and all this stuff. Like it's almost like you don't want people to be like, oh, see, like you shouldn't have done that, or like, you know what I mean? Like I think that also comes along with it too, like even
Interesting.
if we're not like thinking about it, we just
Mhm.
don't really want to talk about like all the like fucked up shit that can happen too. I definitely want to like reiterate like my experiences
Is
only
yours.
is
Yeah.
mine, and like I am like privileged enough to be able to have the experience that I've had and be like accepted amongst like my friends and my family, and
Mhm.
like um but yeah, I can definitely not speak for all trans people, but I can share whatever information
Right.
I have.
Something that, I mean, to the extent that you're comfortable with, I was curious asking you about of just changes to your health overall. Talking about changes that you weren't anticipating because they're not often talked about, or because you didn't have the network to tell you about it ahead of
Yeah.
time. We talked a little bit about your mental health, because I think I met you just slightly before transition,
Yeah.
and there's got to be this whole set of waves that you've ridden of the changes in your
Still
life.
riding the wave.
Yeah, still. I mean, have we ever
Yeah.
arrived? I don't know if we've ever arrived. I'm cracking beer number 2.
Before I started transitioning, before I even like came out, I was definitely, I'd say my whole life like in just this like spiral of like depression and like I still deal with depression, but it's like definitely like on another level. It's like very different than what it looked like before. Very suicidal, like for, I'd say from when I was in middle school up until like, I still like deal with like all that stuff, but it's definitely gotten a lot easier. And like I'm so much happier. But yeah, before I transitioned, I did not know what was going on. Like I felt like I was waking up every day and like I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I like couldn't even like grasp like what life was. Like I was just so confused and I didn't know why. I had no resources. I had the internet, but like, you know, we get wrapped up in what we like to look at, or like what, you know, like I'm not like researching all this shit because like I didn't even know that like that's who I was or that's like what was going on. So I didn't even like know what to look for. I think it was like Instagram or something where I just like came across like somebody who identified as like gender queer, and it was the first time I had really like even heard that term, and like I was like, oh my god, this person's so cool. Like they just kind of like do what they want, and they're like, they look fucking cool, and they're able to just express themselves, you know. And it was more like just like me like lurking their shit and being like, oh, this person's tight, you know. Like I don't know what they're going through or like what they're about, but like they just seem like, I don't know, like they have it figured out or something like that, you know. And like,
and you're just developing an internet crush on like
the
idea of it all.
exactly, like a crush on like their life and like what they were about and stuff. And I didn't really know like why I was so drawn to it, but I just knew that like it looked really interesting and stuff, you know. And like I felt like I could relate to like certain aspects. Like this person had top surgery, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like, you know, being someone that like hated my chest and didn't know why, like I was like, whoa, that's an option. Like I don't have to identify like as like male or female, but I can still like have top surgery and stuff like that. So that was like my first kind of like introduction into all of that stuff. Like I still at this point didn't like consider myself a trans person, or like didn't really know what any of that stuff was.
Did you notice a change in your mental health from that point on?
Yeah, definitely. Like I just felt like if this person could do it, like I can like figure other shit out with myself. I was able to like talk to a therapist about it, and it was like all this shit, like 27 years of just like shit that I had been like holding back. I just got it all out, and yeah, it's been kind of like a slow uphill climb. You know, like I definitely have moments where I'm like at a low point, but it gets like further in between, you know, like like it becomes like very spread out, whereas like before it was like every day I was having like a mental breakdown, you know. I feel like I have a real hard time describing like physical changes, like other than obviously like being on HRT, like hormone replacement therapy. Like I definitely like have like a different like energy, you know, that comes along with that. Like you know, there's obviously like a ton of like physical changes that go on, but I can't really say whether it's like positive or negative. It's just kind of like different, you know what I mean? Like I can't really like describe it like word for word or like anything like
Yeah.
that. It's just more of like an overall feeling.
I originally asked Levi on the to come on the webcast with me because he gave me some constructive feedback around episode 2, which I will link down below so that you know what we're referring to. But in episode 2, just a brief summary, I talk about the science around sensation, and I talk about analogous structures. Levi gave me some constructive criticism around some terms that I use, and
Dun dun dun.
yeah, bum bum bum. So I wanted to have him on the show because I was like, would you mind having the same conversation with me in real time on camera about basically describing gender and the differentiation that I was using, and you had a different idea that you brought to my attention.
So the terms that you used were what? Female-bodied?
I used female-bodied and male-bodied.
And male-bodied. Which, like, immediately I was like, stop the clip. Like, what? Rewind. Like, play, rewind. I was like, whoa. Like, because that was actually the first time that I had heard those terms. Like, I had never heard those terms, but I just knew that they didn't sit well with me because I think you showed, like, a diagram of a vagina or something, and you said, like, a female-bodied person, and then you showed, like, a diagram of a penis, or I don't really remember the full, like...
analogous structures, blah,
yes,
blah, blah.
Okay, yeah. So, anyways, being somebody that, like, I have a vagina, and I'm comfortable having a vagina, and that's not to say that, like, all trans people, like, feel comfortable with their genitals, that they were born with, but for me, like, I connect with mine, and I feel like it's not a female, I'm not a female-bodied person in any way.
Yeah, I think that's an important delineation to make. In the episode I was talking about, my friend and I, he identifies as male, I identify as female, ... and like describing analogous structures in the sense of our relation to sex toys. But then I started to generalize about more people, and to your point, that genitals don't describe your gender.
When I first started transitioning, I had a lot of dysphoria around, like, my body parts and stuff like that. And, like, there were things that I, like, needed to change. Like, getting top surgery was definitely something I knew, even before transitioning, that I, like, wanted. Even before I identified as a male, I knew I was getting top surgery no matter what. But as far as having, like, bottom dysphoria, I know a lot of trans guys do, like, have a lot of conflicts with that and, like, have a lot of bottom dysphoria. That's, like, a very common thing. But a lot of guys don't have bottom dysphoria, you know? And I think that's something that's not really talked about because, like, again, with, like, the internet and all this stuff, like, they really, like, toxic masculinity is, like, everywhere in this, like, concept of, like, what a man is, and, like, if you're a trans man, like, you're gonna have bottom surgery, or you're gonna, like, use Packers, which is, like, if you don't know what that is, it's, like, putting something in your pants to, like, make it appear like you have a bulge, or, like, have a penis, or something like that. So, like, I experimented a lot with that when I first started transitioning, and it was mostly because of, like, what I saw. Like, I was like, if I'm going to navigate this world as a man, and people are going to respect me as the gender that I am, like, I have to kind of, like, keep up with this, like, perception or whatever. So
you have to present or perform, and
exactly, like, who's gonna date me if I don't have a penis and stuff like that. And it was very, like, it was very confusing because my whole life I never really had bottom dysphoria, you know, even when I had all this other fucking dysphoria around, like, other aspects of who I was. But I started developing bottom dysphoria, like, while transitioning, which I feel like that's not something that's really talked about either. A lot of times your dysphoria, like, shifts in a lot of ways as soon as you start, like, hormones and you start, like, identifying as a certain way to, like, everyone else. a lot of things come up that you don't even really like think about, you know? Like I never really had to think about that stuff, and then I was like, "Oh my God, like what am I going to do? Like what do I do now?" As I'm getting older and as I'm kind of like coming into who I am, it's something like I have a vagina and I fucking embrace it and it's cool, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not it doesn't make me any less of a man than the next fucking guy, you know? So it's like and I'm going to be with someone who also accepts that, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's really important, and I definitely encourage like everyone to like figure out what works for you. Do not fucking go on YouTube and like try to like accomplish what all these other people are trying to accomplish, because there's like such toxic shit out there for everybody. And just
Yeah.
because like you're in the queer community doesn't mean there's like not toxic masculinity and not like problematic shit going on. And people trying to fucking oppress you because of your body.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's ideas
it's real.
that you have to be queer enough.
Yeah.
Right, which is just
exactly
bananas to
yeah,
think about.
it's fucked up, and I think
Or the idea of passing that we talked about earlier.
passing.
Passing.
Yeah, terrible word. Terrible fucking word, because it's just oppressing you. It's oppressing me. It's oppressing fucking the whole trans community. Like this idea of trying to like fit a specific standard of gender and what you should look like, or
Yeah.
who you should be, or how you should act, or being masculine or feminine. It's like it's all bullshit.
It's all bullshit.
Yeah, don't do that. Do you?
Yeah, exactly. Your gender doesn't have to be on that binary. And so
Yeah.
I was using terms that reinforce that binary, which is why you had such a visceral reaction to it.
Oh yeah, immediately
Yeah.
jumped up out of bed. I was like, gotta say something real
Yeah.
quick, like just put my 2 cents out there. I definitely think like there's always room for you know, a conversation first before you like make any kind of like judgments and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I thought that was awesome and exactly like what I needed to hear and how I received it, because like the platform was perfect.
yeah.
So you had some suggestions for me as far as how to navigate that in the future.
I think it was along the lines of like a person with a vagina or a person with a penis, or rather than using any gender at all, because gender really, like you said, has nothing to do with your anatomy. It's like saying like a person with breasts. Well, that could be a cis guy. Well, that could be a trans guy. That could be a cis female. It could be a trans female. You know, like it really, it's really irrelevant to like your gender. You know, so
right. And it's more meaningful to say a person with breasts because of all the reasons you just listed. Is that more people fall into that category.
Anyone can identify it that way, you know, like more people. Like for me, if someone says female-bodied, I'm like, what does that look like? I don't fucking know, you know,
right,
like a female could look a million different ways, you know. So like for me, it's not very helpful like gendering anyone's body, because I don't like, as of right now, like I don't know what that looks like, you know. That's very specific to the individual, you know. So which obviously if you're talking about your own body and you're gendering yourself, then it makes more sense, which maybe that's what you were doing in that video.
Even if I was, it doesn't mean this conversation shouldn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just wanted to kind of make it clear so that everyone could kind of feel included and feel like they could like relate a little bit more, you know.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah,
and
thank
you were
you.
brave enough to come on this show.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, this is like my first time on TV. Is this TV?
What is this? Am I famous now? Well, thank you.
Yeah,
this has been fun
and
really like edifying for me, and
awesome.
I hope you had a good time.
Yes, cheers.
Yeah,
cheers.
I mean, at least there was staccato.
Cool.